I watched my mother's smile disappear before anyone at the table realized why. It happened the exact second I quietly set my wineglass down, looked around our beautifully decorated Christmas table and said, "You know, I wasn't planning to tell anyone tonight, but since we're all sharing opinions about my life, I think it's finally time." The laughter stopped. Even the Christmas music playing softly from the living room suddenly felt too loud. My older sister, Amanda, leaned back in her chair with the same smug smile she'd worn since dessert was served. "Oh, come on, Rachel," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "Don't be so sensitive. We were just having fun." My mother chuckled. "She's right, honey. Amanda's always teasing." The rest of the family looked down at their plates, pretending they hadn't just laughed along with her. I slowly folded my napkin. For 35 years, I'd been the family's easiest target. Tonight was different, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't going to let them decide who I was. My name is Rachel Collins. I'm 35 years old, and until that Christmas dinner, my family believed they knew everything about me. They couldn't have been more wrong. Christmas had always been my favorite holiday growing up, not because everything was perfect. It wasn't. But because, for one day every year, I convinced myself maybe we'd finally feel like the close family everyone else seemed to have. My parents hosted Christmas Eve every year in their house outside Columbus, Ohio. The same traditions, the same recipes, the same old ornaments that had been hanging on the tree since Amanda and I were little girls. From the outside, we looked like one of those families you'd see in a holiday commercial. Inside, things were very different. Amanda was 3 years older than me. She was beautiful, confident, outgoing, and somehow always managed to make every room revolve around her. She'd married her college sweetheart before turning 26. They had 2 kids, a beautiful house, matching SUVs, and enough family photos on social media to convince the world their lives were perfect. Our parents adored her. They didn't hide it. Amanda got praised for everything. If she baked cookies, they were the best anyone had ever tasted. If she hosted Thanksgiving, my mother talked about it for months. If her children got average grades, my father called them little geniuses. Meanwhile, I graduated at the top of my class. No celebration. I bought my own condo. My parents asked why I hadn't chosen a bigger place. I received a promotion at work. Amanda immediately changed the subject to her son's soccer game. After a while, I stopped expecting recognition. Life became simpler that way. There was only one thing my family seemed interested in discussing: why I wasn't married. Every holiday, every birthday, every family barbecue, someone always asked, "So, when are you finally settling down? You aren't getting any younger. Don't you want children? What are you waiting for?" At first, I'd laugh politely. Then I'd change the subject. Eventually, I just smiled and said, "I'm happy." That answer always disappointed them. Apparently, happiness didn't count unless there was a husband standing next to me. The truth was, I'd dated. I'd fallen in love once. That relationship ended years ago. After that, I focused on building a life that actually made me happy instead of chasing one that looked impressive in Christmas cards. I loved my work. I traveled whenever I could. I volunteered on weekends. I had incredible friends. My apartment felt like home. Was my life different from Amanda's? Absolutely. Was it empty? Not even close. But my family couldn't imagine a successful woman without a husband. Especially Amanda. She treated my single life like an endless comedy routine. Sometimes she'd introduce me at parties by saying, "This is my little sister. She's still interviewing candidates." Everyone laughed. I'd smile. Then I'd go home, wondering why the people who claimed to love me enjoyed making me feel small. This Christmas started like every other one. I arrived carrying homemade cinnamon rolls. My mother hugged me. "Merry Christmas, sweetheart." Amanda arrived 20 minutes later. The room immediately became louder. Her kids ran through the house. My father rushed to help carry gifts inside. Mom couldn't stop complimenting Amanda's dress. "You always look so elegant." Amanda smiled. "I try." Then she looked at me. Oh, Rachel! You came alone again. I forced a smile. I drove myself, yes. She laughed. No, I meant. She looked around dramatically. Still no mysterious boyfriend? A couple of relatives laughed. I ignored it. The afternoon moved on. We decorated cookies with the kids, opened stocking gifts, watched old Christmas movies. For a little while, I actually relaxed. Maybe this year would be different. Maybe everyone had finally grown up. I should have known better. Dinner started beautifully. Dad carved the turkey. Mom insisted everyone say something they were grateful for. When it was my turn, I smiled. I'm grateful that everyone made it here safely. Simple, honest. Then Amanda stood to refill her wine. She glanced toward me. You know what I'm grateful for? Nobody answered. I'm grateful I don't have to explain to my kids why Aunt Rachel keeps showing up to Christmas alone every single year. The table went silent for 1 second. Then several people laughed, including my father. Amanda kept going. I mean... She shrugged dramatically. 35. Never married. No kids. At this point we're probably going to start introducing her as the cool aunt with too many cats. I don't even own a cat, I said quietly. She grinned. Yet. More laughter. Even my teenage nephew looked uncomfortable. Amanda leaned toward me. So tell us. Is there some secret boyfriend? Or are you just impossibly picky? I reached for my water. I don't think that's really anyone's business. Oh, come on. We're family. She smiled sweetly. We're worried about you. Mom nodded. She has a point. Amanda continued. I just hate the idea of you waking up one day realizing everyone else has a family except you. She turned toward Mom. Can you imagine spending Christmas alone? Mom shook her head. I couldn't. Something inside me cracked. Not because Amanda made another joke. She always did. It was seeing my mother smile while she said it. She wasn't embarrassed. She wasn't trying to stop Amanda. She was enjoying it. I looked around the table. Nobody defended me. Nobody changed the subject. Nobody said, that's enough. I realized something in that moment. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as entertainment. Amanda raised her glass. Here's to hoping next Christmas, Rachel finally finds someone willing to marry her. Everyone laughed again. Except me. I slowly put my drink on the table. The sound of the glass touching the wood was surprisingly loud. Amanda smirked. Oh. Did I hit a nerve? I looked directly at her. No. I think you accidentally did me a favor. She frowned. What does that mean? I folded my hands calmly. For years I've listened while everyone here treated my life like a joke. Nobody spoke. I've smiled. I've changed the subject. I've pretended it didn't bother me. I looked at my mother. You always said Amanda was only joking. Mom shifted uncomfortably. Rachel. I continued. So, tonight. I've decided I'm done pretending. Amanda laughed nervously. Seriously? You're making a speech? No. I'm telling the truth. Dad cleared his throat. Maybe this isn't the time. It's exactly the time. I looked around the room. I've been keeping something from all of you. Amanda rolled her eyes. What? You secretly got engaged? A few awkward laughs followed. I didn't smile. No. It's much bigger than that. For the first time all evening, Amanda looked uncertain. What are you talking about? I didn't tell anyone because I wasn't ready. And honestly, I wasn't sure any of you had earned the right to know. Mom stared at me. What secret? I took a slow breath. I've been living a completely different life than the one all of you think I have. Nobody moved. Even Amanda's children had stopped whispering. I made a decision 3 years ago. A decision that changed everything. Amanda crossed her arms. What decision? I looked at every face around that table. Every holiday memory. Every insult. Every moment I'd stayed quiet just to keep the peace. Then I reached into my purse. Inside was a thick cream-colored envelope tied with a dark green ribbon. I placed it carefully in the middle of the table. Dad frowned. "What is that?" "It's the reason I never cared whether any of you approved of my life." Amanda's confidence began to fade. "What are you talking about, Rachel?" I gently rested my hand on the envelope. "I wasn't planning to tell anyone until after New Year's." I looked directly into Amanda's eyes. "But after everything you said tonight, I think all of you deserve to know at least one piece of the truth." Amanda swallowed. "What truth?" I untied the ribbon, lifted the flap, pulled out the first document. Before I could turn it around for everyone to see, the front doorbell rang. Every head in the room turned toward the hallway. A second later, someone knocked again. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. My father's face tightened. "We're not expecting anyone." Neither was I. But somehow, the moment I heard that knock, I knew exactly who was standing on the other side of the door. And if they walked into that dining room, nothing in our family would ever be the same again. The room stayed frozen. Nobody moved toward the front door. The knocking came again. 3 slow, patient knocks. My father looked around the table. "I'll get it." "No," I said quietly. "I'll do it." Every pair of eyes followed me as I stood. I walked through the hallway with my heart pounding so hard I could hear it. When I opened the front door, a tall man in a dark wool coat smiled warmly. "Merry Christmas, Rachel." "Merry Christmas, Daniel." He held up a small gift bag. "I figured you might need this. You always know." He laughed softly. "I've had enough practice." He glanced past me into the house. "They're all here?" "Every one of them." "You still want me to come in?" I took a deep breath. "Yes. It's time." Daniel nodded. "Then let's do this together." We walked back toward the dining room. The conversation had completely stopped. Amanda's eyebrows shot up. "Who's this?" I looked around the table. "This is Daniel Brooks." He smiled politely. "Nice to meet everyone." Nobody answered. Amanda looked from him to me. "Wait." "Kat," she laughed nervously. "Please don't tell me you've secretly been dating someone." I looked at Daniel, then back at my family. "I've been married." The room exploded into silence. Nobody even breathed. Amanda blinked. "What?" "I've been married for almost 3 years." Mom's face turned white. "Rachel, and Dad stared at my left hand. "But you aren't wearing a ring." "I usually don't." Amanda laughed once. No, that's impossible." "When? How?" "To him?" Daniel reached for my hand. I squeezed it. I didn't tell anyone because every relationship I'd ever introduced to this family became another opportunity for criticism. I looked directly at Amanda. "You once told one of my boyfriends that he'd leave me because I was too serious." Amanda opened her mouth. "I was joking." "You also told another one that dating me meant marrying into a family that would never stop interfering." She looked away. "I didn't mean it." "You never noticed he broke up with me 2 weeks later." Daniel spoke for the first time. "When Rachel told me those stories, I couldn't believe people treated their own daughter that way." Nobody answered. Mom looked heartbroken. "You should have told us." I smiled sadly. "Why? So Amanda could make jokes about my marriage instead of my single life?" She couldn't answer. Dad cleared his throat. "So, you've been hiding your husband for 3 years?" "Yes." "But why keep it a secret this long?" I reached for the envelope still sitting on the table. "Because that wasn't the only secret." Amanda folded her arms again. "There's more?" "There is." I pulled another document from the envelope. "This is the reason Daniel and I got married quietly." I handed it to my father. He adjusted his glasses. His eyes widened. "What?" Mom leaned closer. "What is it?" He looked at me. "It's incorporation paperwork." I nodded. 3 years ago, Daniel and I started a nonprofit. Amanda frowned. "For what?" For young adults leaving foster care. Nobody spoke. I continued. Daniel grew up in foster care. He smiled gently. I aged out when I was 18. I never had parents helping me with college applications. No family holidays. No emergency contact. Rachel looked at me one day and asked what I wished someone had done for me. He squeezed my hand. So we built it. Mom whispered, "You never told us. You never asked." That sentence hurt all of us. I could see it. Amanda looked confused. So, it's a charity? It started as one. I nodded. We rented one apartment. Then another. Then we partnered with local businesses. We created scholarship programs. We helped teenagers find housing, jobs, and mentors. Dad kept flipping through the papers. His hands began shaking. There are annual reports. There are financial statements. Mom looked over his shoulder. Oh my God. Amanda reached across the table. What? Dad slowly looked up. Rachel. Is this right? Yes. The organization now operates in 6 states. Amanda frowned. So? Dad swallowed. It serves more than 2,000 young adults every year. She still didn't understand. Then he turned another page. The endowment. He stopped reading. Mom whispered. How much? He looked directly at me. It says, "Went." He cleared his throat. $48 million. Amanda laughed. That's ridiculous. It can't be. Daniel quietly answered. It is. The number surprised us too. The organization grew much faster than we ever imagined because companies wanted to invest in measurable results. Nobody moved. Amanda stared at me. So, you're rich. I shook my head. The organization isn't about making us rich. Our salaries are approved by an independent board. We live comfortably. But every extra dollar goes back into helping young people who don't have families. Daniel smiled. Exactly as we intended. Mom suddenly started crying. You've been doing all of this. And we never knew. No. You never knew, because every time I came home. I looked around the room. The only thing anyone asked about was why I wasn't married. Silence. I kept waiting for someone to ask if I was happy. What I was working on. What excited me. What mattered to me. No one ever did. Amanda looked down. I had never seen her speechless. Finally, she whispered, I didn't know. I know. You never tried. The room became painfully quiet. Then Amanda surprised me. She started crying. Not dramatically, not loudly, real tears. I thought. She struggled to continue. I honestly thought we were teasing each other. I looked at her. Did it ever occur to you that I never teased you back? She covered her face. No. I guess. I never noticed. Mom reached for my hand. I failed you. Her voice cracked. I should have stopped it years ago. I didn't pull my hand away. You should have. Dad removed his glasses. I laughed because I didn't want conflict. You laughed because it was easier than standing up for me. He nodded slowly. You're right. For several minutes nobody said anything. The Christmas lights reflected in the dining room windows. Outside, snow drifted quietly onto the front lawn. Finally, Daniel spoke. I'd like to tell you one thing. Everyone looked at him. When I first met Rachel, she apologized for her family. I closed my eyes. I remembered saying it. He continued. She warned me not to expect too much. She said they loved her. But they rarely saw her. Mom sobbed. I didn't realize. Daniel smiled sadly. I told her something. He looked at me. Do you remember? I nodded. You said being unseen hurts more than being criticized. Because at least criticism means someone noticed you. He smiled. And I promised I'd never let you feel invisible again. Amanda quietly stood. She walked around the table, stopped beside me. I owe you an apology. She wiped away tears. Not because of tonight. For years. I turned you into the punchline because... She laughed bitterly. Because I liked being the successful sister. I looked at her. The funny thing is, I always admired you. She stared. You did? You had confidence. You walked into every room like you belonged there. I spent years wishing I had that. Amanda shook her head. I was terrified most of the time. What? I thought if I wasn't the impressive daughter, I wouldn't matter. That surprised everyone. Even Mom. Amanda looked at our parents. You compared us all the time. You probably didn't mean to. But you did. If Rachel got good grades, you'd ask why mine weren't higher. If I hosted Christmas, you'd compare her cooking. We were always competing. Mom covered her mouth. Oh, Amanda. We never wanted that. I know. But that's what happened. For the first time in decades, nobody defended themselves. Nobody made excuses. We simply sat with the truth. After a while, my youngest nephew walked over. He couldn't have been older than 10. He hugged me. Aunt Rachel? Yeah? I think you're really cool. I laughed through tears. Thank you. He looked confused. Why's everyone crying? The entire table laughed. A real laugh this time. Not one at someone else's expense. Later that evening, after dinner was finally cleaned up, Mom found me standing on the back porch watching the snow. She wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. You always come out here. I know. When you were little, you'd stand here every Christmas waiting for the first snowflake. I'd forgotten that. She hadn't. I'm sorry. I know. No. She shook her head. I don't think you do. I spent years assuming you'd always forgive us. I never stopped to think how lonely you must have felt. I looked across the backyard. I wasn't lonely because I was single. I smiled sadly. I was lonely because I felt invisible. She cried quietly. I can't change your childhood. No. But maybe. She hesitated. If you'll let me, I can do better with whatever time we have left. I hugged her. Not because everything was suddenly fixed. Because healing has to begin somewhere. Over the next year things changed slowly. Not perfectly. Slowly. Amanda stopped making jokes at my expense. Instead, she started asking about the young adults our organization helped. A few months later, she organized a fundraiser through her company. Dad volunteered to mentor teenagers learning construction skills. Mom began hosting holiday dinners at one of our transitional homes every December. Watching them serve meals instead of opinions felt like the greatest Christmas gift I could have imagined. People sometimes ask why I hid my marriage. The truth is, I wasn't hiding Daniel. I was protecting the one place where I felt completely accepted until I was strong enough to survive losing it. Ironically, keeping that secret forced my family to confront a much bigger one. Not that I was married. Not that I'd helped build something bigger than any of us imagined. The real secret was that love isn't measured by how loudly someone claims to support you. It's measured by whether they make you feel seen. For years, my family looked right through me. That Christmas, they finally looked at me. Really looked. And for the first time in my life, I didn't need their approval. I simply needed them to know the woman I'd become without it.